The following program is brought to you by PodcastOne Sportsnet.
The holidays are upon us, and the NFL, college football, NBA, NHL, and now college basketball are all heating up. There's only one place to get in on all the action, betonline.ag. Use promo code PodcastOne to receive a 50% sign-up bonus when signing up. And don't forget to try in-game live betting where you can participate with all the action with every play. betonline.ag, your online sportsbook experts and the exclusive partner of PodcastOne Sportsnet.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody, welcome to Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from the mean streets of Los Angeles, California. I am proudly sitting here at 317 Gimmick Street. I got an American flag over here on the wall. I got a neon clock that's burning bright, red, white, and blue. It says, "Don't mess with Texas," although I am in the state of California. Hell of a podcast for you today. As I look down at my laptop computer here on my podcast table, I didn't know whether to shit or wind my watch today. Didn't know what I was going to do because I normally record my Tuesday podcast on Monday. It's Sunday. My Monday is absolutely swamped. No time for nothing. Been trying to think about this. It's been an impending thing that I've had set up for quite some time. Got some work to do. What will I do? And I started scrolling through my iPhone and kept coming back to one name only. But would he, could he give me an hour of his time? So I called up the man. I called up Nature Boy Ric Flair. He was watching football with his wife, Wendy. They recently got married. I got invited to the wedding. I didn't get a chance to go down there. And I said, Rick, man, I'm in a jam. I said, I need to do a podcast. And I said, I'd love to talk to you just for about an hour. And I know you've been on the show and it's been fun, but I got a couple of things I'd like to run by you and get your take on a few things and talk about some of the things that maybe I had forgotten. And I also wanted to check in and see how he was doing from a health standpoint, as he just got finished with all the things that he went through with his battles with his health due to his activities as a professional wrestler. And he goes, Steve, for you, anytime. I said, Rick, I'll call you back in 30 minutes. You're about to hear that conversation. I wrote down a few notes. If you know anything about me, if you know anything about professional wrestling, you know that Ric Flair, and this is a subjective subject, but if you have any common sense, Ric Flair is the greatest professional wrestler that ever lived. When you look at the body of work, when you look at the promos, when you look at the in-ring activity, when you look at the world title he defended all around the world, everybody knows that Ric Flair is a man. So I tried to basically pattern the beginning part of my career after him. That's how big of an influence he was on me. So to be able to talk to this man for an hour, I'm proud to bring you this podcast, which he didn't have to say yes. He was watching football with his wife there in Atlanta. And Rick, I want to thank you before we get this podcast going, because it's always wonderful talking to you, and you're an idol of mine. You'll hear in the beginning of the podcast, I had called Rick, or we had been texting each other before WWE came through for a West Coast swing. And he goes, hey, man, are you going to go down to Survivor Series? I said, I'm not going to go down to the building because those pay-per-views are so busy that it's hard to really talk to anybody because everybody's focused on their match. I said, hey, man, I'll come do lunch with you if you want to. And so we agreed to do lunch. But he got taken away, and he had to do some promotional things for Starrcade and some other things that WWE was doing, so we missed lunch. And then I get a phone call from Ric Flair, and he goes, hey, man, I got 2 sideline passes for the LA Rams, Kansas City Chiefs Monday Night Football game. Do you want to go? Here he is, the man. To be the man, you got to beat the man. That's what he used to always say, and he's inviting me, Steve Austin, to go down and watch a football game with him. But I had a bunch of shit going on, like I always do, and I couldn't make it down there, and I didn't want to fuck with the traffic and all that other stuff. Thank you so much for inviting me to go to a Monday Night Football with you. Him and Todd Gurley are ongoing friends for about 3 years. But anyway, I missed out on going to Monday Night Football. We didn't get a chance to have lunch. Got a chance to talk a little bit with Wendy on the podcast. She's got something she will promote. But this conversation is purely me and Rick shooting the breeze, talking about wrestling, talking about life, talking about some bad habits here and there. Maybe you pick up things that he overcame. I consider Ric Flair to be one of the toughest men I've ever met in my life. You look at all the turnbuckles he took, all the backdrops, all the slams off the top rope, all of hitting a turnbuckle, flipping over it, landing outside, all that shit, telling the stories, living the life. You've got to understand, and I do, how he was burning the candle at so many ends. And what a glorious career he had. Damn near 40 years inside the ring, inside the squared circle. I'll never forget, getting a chance to meet Ric Flair, work with him, and watch him in tag matches, being on the apron while he's in there doing work. And to watch him up close, in person, live and in living color, 5 feet, 10 feet, 2 feet away, whole different level. As a young person coming up in the business, you have your heroes, you have your people that you look up to, and I've been fortunate to have so many people like Dr. Tom Pritchard, gorgeous Gary Young, superstar Bill Dundee, Bronco, Lubitsch, Skandar Akbar, and so many more. Bret Hart take me under their wing and give me learnings and give me knowledge and give me 411. But when you sitting there and you're watching Ric Flair in action at that close of a distance and you see what he's doing, you think, oh man, he ain't that good. He ain't that good. He ain't that good. Bullshit. This is when you're in your competitive stages. Yeah, he is that good. He's the greatest to have ever done it. So Ric Flair is my guest. You know what I think about him. I'm not going to blow any more smoke, but it ain't blowing smoke. That's how much I respect the guy. And I love the guy as well. So my conversation with Ric Flair is about to start. I'm going to stop flapping my gums, but I do want to give a shout out real quick to my nephew down there in College Station, Texas. We were texting during the Texas A&M LSU Tigers game, and son of a bitch, what a game. LSU came in something like ranked number 7. Hell of a defense, 9-2. I guess A&M coming at 7-4 the number 22 spot. That game started off, and all of a sudden, A&M jumps off to a 14-7 lead. And I'm thinking, man, we got this. And I've been talking with my nephew, Neil. I said, man, Jimbo's a hell of a coach. And I'm a big Ed Orgeron fan as well. I like that LSU program. I love Louisiana, but I'm from Texas. I said, I think they can do it. 7 overtimes later, Texas A&M finally wins. Son of a bitch. I tapped out of the World Series when they went into like 13. I think I tapped out on 13 innings, whatever that one game ended up going. I was not going to tap out on this game. I was going to watch it until it finished. And which going into that third overtime, you must go for the 2-point conversion rather than the extra point after the touchdown. So there's where someone could fall. Nobody fell until finally in the 7th overtime, A&M wins it. I guess it was a high-scoring football game in SEC history, if not college football history. And I never thought anyone would ring up a score like they did. 74-72. What the fuck was it? I don't even remember. It was outrageous, but what a good game. So I want to say hello to my nephew Neil. Hello to my niece Emma, both down there in College Station. What a friggin' football game. I think that football game took 2 years off of my life. But anyway, Ric Flair is my guest on the show today. Let's stop me flapping my gums and let's turn the microphone over to the man, Ric Flair. I Skyped with him at their residence in Atlanta, Georgia. To Ric Flair, I say thank you. You're the greatest to ever do it. You're a guy who I look up to over and over and over again. And thank you for doing a podcast with me. I wish we could have done it in person. Take a listen. Here's myself and Ric Flair shooting a breeze. The holidays are upon us all in the NFL, college football, NBA, NHL, and now college basketball are all heating up. College football is bringing it with a monster battle between Alabama versus Georgia, an SEC extravaganza. And college basketball sees two powerhouses going head-to-head with North Carolina versus the University of Michigan. Are you looking for a place for all your online wagers? Well, look no further because our friends at BetOnline.ag have got you covered. BetOnline.ag is an exclusive partner of PodcastOne Sportsnet and our go-to for online sports betting. betting. Don't hesitate. Head over to betonline.ag to take advantage of the best bonuses in the business. When you're there, use promo code PodcastOne. That's PodcastOne to receive a 50% sign-up bonus today. Go online or use your mobile phone to sign up today. And try in-game live betting where you can participate with all the action with every play. Once more, that's betonline.ag and use promo code PodcastOne to start winning with your online sportsbook experts. And if all this talk about college sports has got you fired up, just wait, because as the regular season is coming to an end, the college football postseason is about to heat up. 4 teams will soon be selected to play in the college football playoff, airing Saturday, December 29th on ESPN. The selection show on December 2nd at noon Eastern on ESPN will unveil the 4 teams playing in back-to-back playoff semifinal games. The following teams all have a shot of making the college football playoff: Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame. This season will be Notre Dame's first college football playoff appearance. Michigan. This will be, Michigan. They got stomped. This will be Michigan's first college football playoff appearance as well. Georgia, University of Oklahoma, LSU, they're in the running now, but they just lost to Texas A&M. What a weekend of college football it was. Washington State, they just got beat by Washington. A rivalry weekend. Holy smokes. Also, University of Central Florida and Ohio State. Central Florida wins again, but lost their quarterback, Ohio State, in a dominant win over Michigan. It goes without saying that it's make or break time in college football, and that's the bottom line. Check out the college football playoff selection show on December 2nd at noon Eastern, and don't miss the college football playoff itself, airing Saturday, December 29th, only on ESPN.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
Hello, Ric Flair, Steve Austin.
Steve Austin, I'm glad you called me on an unknown number.
When I Skype with people, it says it's a blocked number. You know I would never do that to you. But that's the reason I hardly ever take your phone calls, because you call from a blocked number. You're ribbing me.
No, I almost didn't answer it.
Why?
Because I'm waiting on your call. When you call me on your cell phone, it says Steve Austin.
I know, but then when I switch over to my Skype account, it's just a blocked number. I don't know why that is. I don't intentionally block it. It just comes up as Steve Austin Show, but it comes up blocked.
No.
God dang, well, I tell you what. No, I'm doing good. The reason I'm calling you is I needed a podcast, and I've got a busy day tomorrow. And I said, man, who in the world can I talk to? Who in the world do I want to talk to? And I've talked to you a couple of times on the podcast, and you're my favorite pro wrestler of all time. But there was a couple of questions that that maybe I asked you back in, but I forgot, but I wanted to go back over. You were just here in Los Angeles to watch Charlotte take on Ronda Rousey. And then you went to the football game. You saw a high-scoring football game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs. And I called you up because you and me were going to do lunch. And then you no-showed me because you had to go do some promotion stuff for WWE.
For Starrcade, which was last night in Cincinnati.
How was the football game? Have you ever seen anything like that?
Well, very rarely, but I mean, it was great. And, I've become really good friends with Todd Gurley. I met Todd about 3 years ago, and so I follow them a lot. And Coach McVay is a big fan. I made him a video, and they got a great team. I mean, the Sioux kid I've loved since the day he came out of Nebraska. So, I very rarely go to games, but it was fun. The sidelines are fun. I saw Vince Ferragamo and some of the guys from yesteryear, guys you wouldn't remember, the tools for you, but still in my time frame from the old Rams teams. And it was a lot of fun. I did a little gig on the NFL Network, and I left before the game was over. But I went back and watched it. It was great.
Well, see, man, one of the things about going to the football games is it's kind of like going to UFC. I absolutely love the UFC, and I've probably gone to about 6 or 8 matches. But, man, it's one thing when you're used to being the center attraction. Maybe you're the main event or you're just on a card, but you're there. Or we're performing. So for me to go and then go through all the headaches, hassles, and horse shit of getting there, man, to me, the best seat for me is on my couch with my remote control in my hand. Just because now as a fan, I thank God for all the people that support all that stuff and go to the live events. But, man, I'm just a homebody.
Yeah. Well, it is. You end up, you hardly get to do anything because everybody's, which I'm thankful for. Everybody wants a picture or an autograph or something. So as much as I want my privacy, I don't mind having the respect to people that play, in other pro sports. So, but anyway, I left early for that very reason. Of it just I couldn't go anywhere, and there's nothing like watching it from home or at a bar.
I want to get to.
I'm not allowed to go anymore.
Well, I wanted to get into that, dude.
That's okay.
How are you feeling these days? I mean, man, you had a hell of a damn medical scare behind you. Yeah. And I remember I was out filming Broken Skull Challenge, and then all of a sudden I was hearing the news, and I would talk to Wendy quite frequently and check in on you, see how you were doing. And man, you were just in a real bad place, and finally you kicked out and you got home. And I know there's a lot of healing up to do on the backside of that, but how are you doing right now? And what happened to make everything come to a head, Rick?
Well, Steve, the thing of it is everybody's, blaming it on drinking, but but I started drinking probably as a kid as young as 15, not obviously on a regular basis. And then when I got out of high school, I went to a high school in Wisconsin, so you could drink beer when you were 18. And of course we did, and that just leads to everything. And I got into business, and then just became, people thought I was ribbing when I, or being facetious when I would tell people on that 30 for 30 that we drank every day. I said I drank every day I worked. They said, how many days you work? I said I worked every day. Twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday. Doesn't mean I drank twice on Saturday and Sunday, but when Sunday and Saturday and Sunday were over, I drank probably double the amount, depending on how long I had to wrestle that day, because sometimes I would do, 2 hours a day with the guys like Morton or Steamboat or Harley or Briscoe. So anyway, what happened was a friend of mine from Dallas came into town, and we were making, he was putting together deals that sell autographed or personalized alligator cowboy boots. He owns a boot company in Texas, and so I made the deal with him, and he came on Thursday. We got done with the boot guy, and he and I and the boot guy went out Thursday, and then I got home. I went home about 10 o'clock. We started about 11 in the morning. He went to Buckhead, and then the next day he came by, and we went back out about 11 in the morning again. And he went to the airport at 5, and I just doubled over. Literally where I was standing, I felt great. When he took me to the hospital, and I don't remember anything, Steve, for 2 months. I was in a coma for 12 days, ICU for 31 days. I had kidney failure, respiratory heart failure. I was septic, and I had pneumonia all at one time. So I guess I was in so much pain, they induced a coma. Because when he said I was just screaming, they couldn't give me enough pain medicine. And then it took them 12 hours to get me ready for surgery. And then 12 days in a coma, and then the 31 days intensive care. And then I had to go over to a rehab facility to learn how to walk and just start from scratch. And I never had any memory of anything until the 1st of November.
Do you remember it looking back now?
No, I don't remember any of it. I mean, obviously I've been told, and it's been filled in for me, but I don't remember one person coming to see me. From Michael Hayes to Ricky Steamboat to Hogan. People came from all over to see me. I don't remember any of it. Even when I was out of the coma in ICU, I was just barely there. They did like over 20 CAT scans on me, trying to figure out if I had any type of permanent, brain damage in terms of memory loss and that. But about September, October. So I got out of that place the 28th, and then I was home here with full-time nursing care, still on an antibiotic. It was intravenous, so I would just sit and ask Wendy questions, and then she would, they wouldn't give me my cell phone because every time I said something with somebody, it was just crazy.
Right.
So they asked the office, Hunter said, please when you don't talk on a cell phone, because every time I try to make sense with them, it's out there, which I'm sure I was. And then we spent, a couple months just filling in the holes. And then my first appearance, actually, my first time around the house was November 7th, which was the premiere of the 30 for 30. I lost 43 pounds. It's a miracle, Steve. I mean, I literally look at it as being a miracle. The doctor told me it was a miracle, and after I look back on everything and, come to realize that what actually took place, it is a miracle. People were writing me off.
Rick, what was your mindset? Because, I mean, your career basically lasted 4 decades, because you broke in about 72, you retired in about 2012. So a 40-year career of being the man in the business of professional wrestling. And, not only are you my favorite, but you're many people's, the gold standard, for going hour Broadways to defend the world title all over the world for a shoot. I mean, you were that guy, and you were living a life,
Thank you.
On the side that a lot of us did. I was doing the same thing you were. You just did it much longer at a much higher level than I did. But when you're going through rehab or you're trying to learn how to walk again, I mean, what is your mindset? Because you're the greatest of all time, and I consider us professional athletes. I do.
Yeah.
You're the greatest of all time. You're on top of the world, and you have all this history, this notoriety, the accolades, and there you are trying to. What was your mindset? I mean, were you just like, hey, I'm not going to give up? I mean, because I don't know that side of Ric Flair. So what did you do?
No. I never thought of giving up, but I really couldn't come to grips with it. Does that make sense? It took me a long time. I mean, I would sit there. As an example, I'll tell you how what I was. The 28 days I spent in the rehab facility trying to learn how to walk again and everything, I didn't even realize that I had that bag, the stoma, the yellow stoma attached to me. And they're changing it every day, 4 times a day. And I didn't even know it. It's not till I got home that I started thinking about it, and then I've told this to a few people, but I think people can realize it or can visualize it or think about it. Steve, I literally spent, I would sit in the chair alone and I would worry about dying. I would spend the whole day worrying I was going to die. I mean, after learning how sick I'd been and trying to figure out why, out of all people in the world, I was still there and somebody else wasn't. I'm being very serious. I don't tell that to a lot of people, but I think if you think about it, I'm sure people have had that. If they've had that similar misfortune, go home and wonder why too. And then it went away. Maybe a couple of days I thought about it. And if I was upset or depressed about something, or something caused any kind of stress, I automatically thought that day I was going to die.
From what? Sense? Like maybe you just
living on borrowed time, right? So I would think back to all the stories over the years where, like Angelo Mosca, when I was 24 years old, he's an old wrestler, big time football player in the CFL, and he told me if I lived to be 30, I'd be overstaying my welcome. You have no idea. You just caught a glimpse of it. Thank God. God, you were at North Texas State, brother. I was on Greenfield Avenue.
if you mind talking about this, but during all those things that were going on, you were in a coma, but also in those initial first few days, you were detoxing, which compounded a lot of the issues.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I'm told they had to strap me down. It was, which I don't remember any of this. I mean, they had me strapped down like I was in a ward for mentally ill people. That was that serious. They had to strap me down, not only my wrists and my ankles, but strap my body down. I was really vibrating, according to them.
We're laughing about it, but it's not funny. But
it's funny. I look back at it now. But I have gone back, and I've taken flowers to the nurses and stuff like that to both places, and when I walked in there, I did it maybe 6 months ago. When I walked in there, they looked at me in shock. That you actually made it. We didn't. we didn't even know when you left us, Rick, went to rehab, whether you were going to make it or not, because you were so far gone. The doctor said that, and I do remember this a little bit, that when they were transferring me, by ambulance over to the rehab center, that I said, God, I'm glad to get out of this place. And that the doctor looked at me and said, this place just saved your life. You better thank God you were here with these people. So, of course, he reminds me of that statement, but I didn't mean it that way. I had been in this room for so long, and I that's about all I can remember is that damn room. And then there's Wendy, who just walked down, who, as who leaned on you a lot for help, and I appreciate that. I've expressed it to you before, but, she was there 31 days, never left my side. She legitimately had what's called ICU psychosis, where she, she's starting to hallucinate a little bit too. So asking me the question, I'm great now. I feel like $1 million, but boy, it was a long time, and I'm just thankful. I will say one other thing on a serious note, because you and I usually are just having fun, but you watch so much TV, which I just have never watched TV before, except sports and stuff like that. Now I watch Netflix and all that, but then you become conscious of you're watching a show, let's say like 911, one of these new shows where it's a lot of stuff with drama in a hospital, and you see someone on a ventilator. It's hard to watch, knowing that you were in that same position. Or you're watching these specials on like this kid that played, or this young man that played football for Harvard that broke his neck on a tackle. I don't know if you saw it or not, last year, and he's completely paralyzed in a wheelchair at 22 years of age.
Yeah.
And kids with cancer, you just become so much aware of illness and people around you that you become super sensitive to anybody, because what I had is nothing compared to a kid that's
right,
or a child that's 5 years old or 15 years old battling cancer. You watch it does. ESPN is really good about putting shows and stories in about people, children that rely on sports for therapy and stuff like that. On a serious note, I'm just glad to be here. So.
I think one of the things when you came out of all this, I think we were talking and joking around, but it was a serious come to Jesus thing, because you can no longer drink alcohol. I just quit drinking a few weeks ago just because I was trying to get in shape. And I was talking about it on my podcast, and the whole world took me out of context that I was never going to drink again. I've been pretty responsible, but you called me. I said, no, it's a rib. So my question to you is, I want to get off of me, but my question to you is, because I was there way back in the early 90s at some of those down at the Dungeon at that hotel in Atlanta when I was just coming into WCW. And of course, I was just such a new guy to the territory. I wasn't a factor, but man, living that life for going back to your teenage years, to your pro wrestling careers. And dude, I've been there because, man, I was the alcohol guy on my crew. I didn't really care about the other stuff. I was into the alcohol.
I've seen you drink.
And there's nothing to brag about.
Hey, they check me in, and you go ahead and make $1 million on the podcast. Well, they send me to rehab. I'll a SummerSlam. I told your friend Paul Ansbury, don't let him kid you, brother. He'll get you hammered, too.
My question to you, how you do it now when you're around people, you're still in the social environment, you go out with Wendy and all these places to the game. If you're around the cocktails and all the stuff, is there any temptation?
Well, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've asked the doctor 10 different times. And, of course, I'll ask other doctors because I refuse to believe. I can count them right now. At my wedding, I had 3 glasses of champagne. At my daughter's wedding, I had the same, or maybe 1 glass of wine, champagne. And while I was in California, I'm in Florida with Wendy this past week. We were there for Thanksgiving. I drank about 4 beers. So it's not that alcohol is going to hurt me. It's that the doctors are afraid that if I had one, it'll lead to another, and that will never happen. But I have had a drink, so alcohol is not going to kill. I've never had any hard liquor, and then that won't happen. But I have had probably 10 or 12 a beverage with alcohol in them. You know what I mean? Beer, wine, or champagne. See, my problem is, if I was walking through the airport and I didn't have to work, and I'd say I was coming home and the plane was delayed, I'm in the bar.
I was too.
I mean, yeah, I mean, daytime drinking, it got to be, Wendy we'd go to lunch at 11, I'd have 4 or 5 beers, and then if I met somebody or a friend of ours, you know, from the country club or whatever was there, I'd say, hell, let's have a couple more, watch it go, and then I'd go home and change clothes and head out again at 5. And I did. It's a daytime drink. I just wouldn't recommend. And using the fact that you don't play golf and golfers drink all day, that doesn't work either. So yeah, when you're drinking 25 vodkas a day and 10 beers, you probably need to take a look at your. You've never been there. You're a beer guy. You're like, wow.
No, man. You know, if it was in the morning and we had time to spare, man, I was there drinking vodka and orange juice because that's a morning drink, right?
I've seen you, but not like me. I can't. I've seen you have a couple of drinks. We had one of the best times I've ever had was you and I, Wendy, talking in Dallas. You know, at the hotel bar. We didn't go to the party or anything, remember?
Yeah.
The three of us? Yeah, I think you suffered an injury, and, you know, as a matter of fact, I know you did, but you and I, Wendy, had a pretty good that night. I know the next day she was ruined. No, you and I had a ball. See, guys like you and I can just talk and appreciate and respect the business, and we don't even have to have another sport to talk about. That's why it's probably unhealthy for us to see each other on a regular basis. If you want to get off alcohol for conditioning, and I need to be off it for my health. That's 20 years too late.
Yeah, I know. For damn sure. With all the health scare stuff behind you, and I know you're getting stronger and stronger every day, and you're out, you're doing things. With all of that medical stuff aside, from a physicality standpoint, because you were, you know, all of the getting thrown off the top turnbuckle, the suplexes, all the bumps that you took, the over the turnbuckle, outside the ring, backdrops. You were the king. You know, you just really worked hard to shine people up, get your heat in, and then flip, flop, and fly for that comeback. We all take a beating from being in the squared circle for so long. I lasted 13 years. You lasted 40. Someone was telling me the other day, I was in Nevada, and they had just met me, and they looked at me and they said, well, isn't that fake? And I told the guy, I said, listen, I said, you can talk about fake all you want, but I said, gravity and physics are real. After a time, they start taking their toll. So my question to you, and you always answer this, and I'll see if you give me the same answer. From that standpoint, how beat up are you, and how do you feel?
I'm not at all. Isn't it? That I can tell you, and people are in shock about it, but I don't feel anything from wrestling. I feel great. The only thing I feel right now is I still am relatively weak in terms of, like this will be the first week I've gotten to spend a whole week in the gym without traveling. I just need to get stronger. But as far as my back, knees, elbows, shoulders, the rotator cuffs, of course, are stiff, but they don't hurt at all. My back, where I was told I'd have arthritis when I got in my 40s, I have no discomfort. So I'm not going to wood. I certainly hate to brag about this, but I don't have any issues in terms of that at all, Steve. I've been so. I mean, it's amazing, and people keep saying you've got to hurt. I say, guys, I feel great.
Even that right, even the knee, because you used to love dropping the knee. Okay, one knee's going across the forehead, the throat, or the ear, but the other one is the impact knee.
Yeah.
That knee's not gimmicked up?
Not at all, no. As a matter of fact, when the one thing I could do without, I had a hard time doing any type of rehab when I had the stoma, the bag on my side. It was attached to my intestine because it was sat right at my waistline. It was hard, but As soon as I got that off, I got back where I was doing 500 pre-squats. I just need a goal. Does that make sense? So, but I finally got the weight back on, and then I found myself putting weight back on more than I wanted. So I got to be careful with that, but I'll be working out. I can do anything, bench press. I had to be careful after surgery, the second surgery for hernia issues, but I literally really just took it easy, didn't do anything. And now I'm full speed ahead. The guy cleared me to do anything. He actually cleared me to get knocked down in the ring. I didn't know whether they were going to use me, in some capacity. The clearances you have to have with them now.
Right.
The health policy, which is
Jesus Christ, thank God the health policy has come light years since we were in the business, from the days of letting Harley Race crack your neck. Holy shit.
Yeah, no kidding. It's funny. You remember that. I tell these kids, I was telling the kids last night, you have no idea what it was like hanging around Harley Race with a chiropractor, and he beat you up if he didn't let you do it. Yeah, I know. No, knock on wood. I never let Harley crack my neck, though, I'll tell you that. But I feel great. I mean, I cracked C5 in my neck in '89, and that doesn't bother me. That's a little like, I don't think I can turn it around as far. My rotator cuffs, no pain. I can't raise them, like I used to or anything, but I feel great. And this other thing is just part of it's the fact that I didn't want to work out too hard because I didn't want to have another hernia issue. But otherwise, by the end of this week, I expect to be in a whole different position with a week of not traveling and working out. Traveling is difficult. You know how it is. It's hard to get off a plane and go to the gym.
Do you enjoy traveling anymore? Because, like, when I was on the road, I always enjoyed traveling because we lived on the road. That was our lifestyle and everything that went with it. And that was the drinking and everything else. Mm-hmm. So these days, do you enjoy the travel process? Because it ain't like the old days. No, I do if I'm with Wendy. Right. You talking about with the WWE? Yeah, just anything. No, I love going to see Nasty, of course. That's but they're long days. I mean, as you know, because you were at the beginning of that process, the 12-hour days if you're in the main event. No, my deal, if I go to do a speaking engagement or something, if I can take Wendy, I'm fine. It's fun to be with her, travel different cities. I'm going to work a deal with the military where I'm going to actually do probably 10 military bases overseas next year in 19. So, first one in Korea in February. First one in Korea, and then she's never been to Tokyo, so we'll go to Korea for, I think it's a 4-day gig, and then I'll take her over to Tokyo for a week, and then the next one's in London. But she loves that kind of stuff, and she loves traveling. So, yeah, if I can take her, and that's just the deal I have, is 2 tickets, first class, limo, no taxis, no hotel shuttles. It's got to be first class. Got to be first class. I don't run through airports. This is not a Hertz commercial. Did you enjoy wrestling in Japan? Oh, God, I did, but everybody stretched me. I mean, I did. I can't tell you. I had so much fun in Japan after the match was over. The answer is yes. Those guys, they beat the living crap out of me, Steve. I was totally defenseless. So one of the guys asked, one of the young kids last night, asked if it was true if they sent Harley over to keep me from getting beat to be my bodyguard. I said, yeah. I get jumbled through. They wanted to switch the title. Bob did, and Bob Geigo called me and he said, good news and bad news. He said, you got that next tour in Japan. You've got Saruta twice and Tenryu twice or whatever. He always give me the lineup. And he said they want to switch the title. We told him, no, it's on sending Harley with you. How embarrassing is that? What were your first thoughts when you first met Harley? I first met Harley in '72. I was traveling with Harley when he hadn't become an NWA champion yet. He was working in Minneapolis. And I was with him and Ray Stevens and Murdoch and Larry Henning and what a crew to break in with Murdoch and Rhodes. Are you kidding me? Bockwinkel, Ray. I know we've spoken about this. You only met Ray Stevens once, right? Right.
Yeah, you had to, but you never got to see him work, did you?
Nope.
Jesus. They got to find footage on him one day. He's still the greatest I've ever seen in my life to this day, and a fun guy. Jesus, he's just like you. He's just laid back and just fun, laugh, finds life. While you take life a lot more seriously, See, Ray is like me. He never took it serious until he had to.
Right.
Yeah, that was the crew I broke in with. So I had a lot of fun. But Harley came in and out, and I actually made some trips with him. When I realized that's when I realized, I think everybody knows the stories about how fast he drove the cars and all that. He was just crazy. He just had to be. If you would have bet Harley 30 years ago that Earnhardt could beat him in a race, he'd Harley take the bet.
Yeah.
Or if he could drink a beer faster, or smoke a cigarette faster, or hit somebody harder. He was that competitive. I just saw him Tuesday, by the way, in St. Louis.
Man, I was with Harley when he was driving, and Leon, Big Van Vader, God rest his soul, was riding shotgun, and every time Harley finished his beer, by the time he crushed that beer, Leon had to have another beer opened and in his hand facing the right direction, or there's going to be hell to pay. So, but when he was driving, he'd drive 90, 95 miles an hour while he was drinking beer. And you know what the thing about it was, Rick? I was soaking up so much information, asking him questions. Yeah. Leon was talking. Of course, he would beat down Leon or yell at him for doing something wrong in the match. But I never felt that I never felt that anything was out of control. A guy driving 95, drinking beer, dark as hell down the highway, but that was normal.
Yeah. For him, and the thing of it is, Steve, he would do it in a snowstorm too. He didn't slow down. Being from the Midwest, and I didn't know you ever rode with him. It's a phenomenal story, right? It was him.
Now knowing what I now know, if I was sitting in the back seat, I'd say, Jesus Christ, Harley, please slow down, because you don't tell Harley anything. You ask him very politely.
Yeah, I know. And it's not that he's not a nice guy. He's just used to doing things his own way, I'm sure. You never heard Leon give him any shit, did you?
Never.
Alexa isn't the only one with breaking news. Make sure to hang around at the end of this podcast for the latest breaking headlines on the AP News Minute.
PodcastOne Sports is your home for the Underdog Sports Network. Join Chris Horwoodell and friends each week as they cover the biggest stories in sports with shows like Tales from the Association, the Underdog Sports NFL Show, and You're Wrong and Here's Why.
You can't rely on draft picks a lot of times with quarterbacks. There's 4 to 5 quarterbacks drafted in the first round that are complete busts.
Check out all these exciting shows on the Underdog Sports Network every week on PodcastOne or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
I want to ask you about some of your classic matchups, because when you think Ric Flair, you automatically go, Flair Steamboat, or you go Flair Dusty Rhodes, or Flair, Barry Windham. I mean, there could be a whole bunch of other ones, but those are the three I focused on. What did you like about working with these three different guys, or dislike or not care for? Because you had knockdown, drag-out matches with all of them. You drew houses with all of them. The chemistry was off the charts, but it seems to me like you and Ricky, I'm guessing, weren't really traveling in the same circles, or you were doing your thing, he was doing his. Same thing with Dusty. I mean, it was almost like two alpha males. I mean, because you guys were both trying to be number one. It's not like you were that close, but you were great in the ring together. So tell me about the relationship. And I know, coming up with Blackjack and, Barry Windham being there, I know you guys were so close to, and Barry lived that lifestyle that you were talking about as well. But what's the story about these three guys, your chemistry with them, and how you got along with them on a personal level?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a good point. I still, to this day, am very close to Steamboat. We never did anything socially, but our friendship in the business, even though we didn't socialize a lot of it was because of the way that we all conducted ourselves back in the day, because of the kayfabe word, right? But we were different guys. He didn't run around and party. He drank beer and had a good time, but he was a much quieter guy. But in terms of in-ring performance, I mean, I'll go back to with the Des Moines, Iowa Clash of Champions, you and him. we couldn't get you to stop the match. So you know how good he was. It was great. Do you remember the match?
Yeah, barely.
You and him in the Clash of Champions? Yeah. And Hogan and I had to go up and follow it. Thanks. So, no, but I'm saying he was such a great worker. It was like a night off for me. I don't care if it was 30 minutes or an hour or 90 minutes, which we've done, a lot of all three. But that was a great chemistry. I didn't look at it like going to work. And he and I are, to this day right now, very close and talk, once a month. I see him at signings, and we do signings together sometimes. So I'm glad he's getting his due recognition because he is the greatest baby of all time.
I agree.
In my opinion.
I agree.
And then Dusty, Dusty and I did socialize a lot, but we did it behind closed doors. And we a lot of competition with he and I, but the thing that people don't realize is that and Dusty, I think, gets more of it now, but there would be no Starrcade. There would be no Great American Bash. There would be no, the theme of the Clash of Champions. All these were names and themes that he came up with. Yeah, the only problem Dusty and I had was were egos, and it wasn't about who wanted to be better. It's like, I'll give you an example, and he and I would have it out about this. We would have the Bunkhouse Stampede, which says creation, right? So I'd be in a title match, say with Barry or Steamboat or somebody right before that, do the, 30, 40, maybe even an hour, right? Win the match or do the hour, win the championship, and go out, and he'd want to beat me in the Bunkhouse Stampede. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah. And finally, I just said to Crockett, I said, I know this. It certainly doesn't make the card any bigger because I've already made my appearance. This is strictly an ego deal,
Right.
But I got it. I knew where it came from. It's like the what do you call himself? Not Midnight Cowboy, but the
Midnight Rider.
Came up with.
Midnight Rider.
Midnight Rider.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Midnight Rider is the world champion too. He didn't go to Dusty Rhodes, went to the Midnight Rider, who rode away and never came back.
When you look around that territory, like Dusty was way out there, just as far as charisma, persona. He was on fire. So were you.
Yeah.
How close did that? How much did that affect you guys as far as competition? Because when I got hot, and then Rock came up and working with me, Rock got over, and then of course he went on to become The Rock. But it's like, no animosity. It was just two hot babies in the same territory, and we both did our own thing. But man, going back to when you guys were on fire, that was kind of like, to me, it was that magical era when I could almost still completely suspend disbelief and like buy into the shit.
Yeah.
Did you ever look at each other and go, "Hey, knock it off, man"? This is just you and me here.
No. I'll tell you, it's just he had a vision that obviously was a real vision because everything that he probably envisioned the business being back then in the 80s is happening right now in terms of movies being made. And one of the greatest stories, and we were on the private jet, we had that Falcon 10, and Jimmy Crockett and Dusty were sitting across from each other. We were coming back from somewhere, and Arn and I were drinking like hell, laughing. And Jimmy Crockett said to me, "We're going to do the Magnum TA's life story, make a movie." They had moved they kept the Charlotte office, but you remember they moved out to Dallas, to Irving.
Yeah.
Or Las Colinas. They built that office out there, which ended up, they were going to make movies. And I said, I said, "What do you got? Who you got in mind?" And this just came out of Dusty's mouth. He looked at me and I said, "Well, we're looking at Sally Fields to play Tamara, who had just won probably her third Academy Award at that point in time. And we're thinking that if we can pull it off, if he's big enough, Stallone will play, this is when Stallone was in the middle of all these Rocky movies, will play Terry Allen."
Really?
And Arn looked at me and put a cold beer to his forehead and says, "No, but But I actually believe he thought that. I mean, I believe that he had Jimmy Crockett thinking that, and in real life, he thought that too. Because we were hot back then, Steve. If we had stayed east of the Mississippi River, they would still be with the promotion would still be there, or somebody. Crockett would have never lost. They were doing $35 million a year back in the 80s, and competing in every city with the WE except for New York. And we were in Philly, but we were in a smaller building, of course. But we were killing Baltimore. You guys had the Capitol Center. But in Chicago, if we had drawn the line in Chicago, but TBS just didn't have the saturation or the, what's the word I'm looking for in terms of network?
Oh, man.
And the audience didn't have the audience on the West Coast. And what killed us was going out there to L.A. and Frisco and, Albuquerque and Vegas and all those towns on the West Coast. San Diego trying to keep up with you guys. And that's what bankrupted the company. If we just stayed east of the Chicago, I think Crockett would still be, a factor in the business. But it was this allure of going to Hollywood and doing all this stuff that, they're not the first company to have problems with that vision. You know what I mean?
Right. But
then, of course, Ted just got disinterested with the business, as you know, and along comes Jim Hurd, and then along comes our friend. Who let Steve Austin go? Who lets Paul Levesque go? I don't need these guys. And at that point in time, look what happened. Look how that worked for him.
Well, by the time I finally put it all together, but last guy I wanted to ask you about, because I wanted to ask you a few questions about Ashley and some of the matches she's had lately. Mm-hmm. Just your working relationship and your personal relationship with Barry Windham, because it seemed like you guys were very close. Great. And, man, there's a couple of matches from between 88 and 90, kind of along that same stream as Steamboat. Man, you guys, I thought Barry, when he wanted to be, was one of the best in the world.
He was, most definitely. Barry fought the weight issue. Barry is like one of these guys that's genetically gifted as hell and never went to the gym in his life. That makes sense?
Yep.
He just didn't have to. He was tall and lean, phenomenal athlete. When he was in high school, football and amateur wrestling. But Barry was just a little bit like me, a little bit like Dusty, and actually not like his dad at all. Barry was the kind of guy that wouldn't hurt a fly. Just the nicest kid in the world. Jack, man, if Jack Mulligan liked you, you were in. If Jack Mulligan didn't like you, brother, you didn't have a choice. I don't know if you were there. I think you may have been in the territory when Jack was working in the office for WCW. Were you there then?
Yes,
okay, you were. So the greatest line I ever heard in my life was we're in Marietta. You may have been in the dressing room. And Luger was there, and Jack Mulligan was his first or second day as a road agent, and he had a coat and tie on, which he was very uncomfortable in, smoking at Salem, and knowing that he had beat up 8,000 people, and I've seen 7,000 of them. He looked at Luger, and he said to Lex Luger, he said, "Hey, they want you to go 20 tonight with Dutch Mantell, and then to get over." And Luger looked at Jack Mulligan, and I swear to God, I just told this story the other day. Lex talked about himself in the third person. He looked at Jack Mulligan and said, "Well, why would a Lex Luger even wrestle Dutch Mantell?" And Mulligan, I was elbowing Arn at the watch this. And just the opposite, Jack got up, put the cigarette out, and instead of whacking him like I thought he was going to, he turned around and walked out and never came back.
Really?
I guess he knew. Yep, he didn't say anything. Just because Jack was. You'd be nervous around him if you saw him sweating. You never knew he was. when he sucker punched Harley Race in Greensboro one night and knocked Harley between the beds, I wanted to run and hide. I didn't want to be part of it. I didn't really want to see what was going to happen. And then it took WOOOO and God only knows 5 guys to break it up. And then we all came up together in my van. I had one of those tricked out Chevy vans when they were popular. And it was me, WOOOO, Harley, and Mulligan riding back. And don't think that was the longest 100 miles of my life. Because I kept thinking to myself, Harley's going to whack it back. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was inevitable, but it never happened. So I guess they figured that, you know, they'd have to go Broadway because I wasn't going to get involved. It wasn't worth it. Some of those guys, Dick Slater is another one, just, you never knew what they were thinking. You know what I mean? And the slightest little thing could trigger their ego or whatever level or whatever thing sensitive would cause that reaction. But Jack, man, wow. Ask what's that slinger? What's his name? The karate guy.
Jesus Christ, I can't remember. That was back in the Wild Wild West days, and it was almost kind of still like that when I got in. And these days, I don't mean to say these days disparagingly, but I mean with all the corporate money, with all the huge sponsors, and how connected they are with all this other stuff, it's very toned down from a personal behavior standpoint. Let's put it that way.
Yes. Oh, of course. Yes. It's like if today you took Harley, and I'm a good friend and I'm a big fan of Brock's. But if you took them in a room and they said to Brock, they want Harley to catch one on you, and Brock said, I ain't doing it, and Harley would just look at Brock and said, we'll figure it out there, kid. He would, that.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have thought twice about it. It wouldn't be like, am I going to get hurt? He wouldn't be worried about the getting German suplex. Well, you've been around. You can appreciate that comment. I'm using Brock. It could be anybody. I've seen a lot of guys that thought that they could talk to Harley Race or do something. But when you do that with Harley Race, you got to plan on losing them. You might win, but you're going to lose a finger, an eye, a ear, something. It's going to come along with that win.
Before I switch over to Ashley and get to the bottom of this, do you think the business is harder now than it used to be, or easier than it used to be?
I think it's harder on the kids that let social media eat them alive. I don't think the business is any harder. I think the days are longer. I think the scrutiny. I have to believe, because I was there with you a lot, but you walked around and you collected your thoughts, and you knew where you were going, and you didn't have 40 writers walking you to the gorilla
right
to walk out the door. You had a game plan, and I've seen you get ready. I mean, you were walking around, and in situations that even involved me. The few times I was lucky enough to be involved with you, but I've asked you to. Those promos and stuff you came up with, they may have given you bullet points, which I can get that. I understand all that. But when you've gotten that groove and you have that capability of entertaining the crowd, they've got to let you run with it. And I don't see that much these days, just because I think the word that the kids don't have enough experience. It's not that they can't, but don't have enough experience. So I think it's harder these days from that standpoint. Do I think it's any easier in terms of work? No, I think that the kids do a lot more hardwired stuff right now, and they incorporate so many different things in their work. It's not that they're any more gifted as an athlete, but the business has raised the bar in level of guys doing more stuff that ultimately may mean something, and ultimately it may not mean something. But I think it's equally hard physically. I think it's harder on them because they're so affected by social media and the number of people that are trying to give them a direction.
But also just because when people are watching TV, they're watching the performances, but then they're also looking at the writing. So it's like you're judging this two ways. You're only supposed to judge this just by watching it and looking at it, not thinking about the writing. But because that's, all of the writers, and it is 2018 going on 19, that's just the way it is. But talking about how far the guys have come, would you have ever imagined back when you were, just getting starting out and then settling into Nature Boy Ric Flair and being the best in the world to ever do it. And all your generations, women are, kind of an attraction here or there, just like they would use the midgets or the smaller people. I don't mean to offend anybody. That's just the way it was.
Yes.
So now, man, I mean, they got women main eventing pay-per-views and this whole revolution. Would you ever imagine in a million years that the women's side of the business would come this far, and your daughter Ashley is right amongst them? But just talking general strokes, just about women's wrestling coming this far before we get into Ashley, because I want to ask you about two of her latest high-profile matches.
Yeah, no, I would have never dreamed, but no, it was from the time I started, they were just an attraction, and which has become public knowledge. They were booked, by Moolah out of Columbia, South Carolina, and the girls were, being underpaid and just being treated horribly. It was not a good deal, and of course, nobody said anything back then because you didn't get involved. They did their thing. But whatever we were doing, it was twice as hard on them because they weren't getting paid anywhere near what they were worth. But they weren't, and it's not that they weren't as feminine. They didn't, that wasn't their role. Their role was to go out and be a tough woman wrestler. I mean, I think Penny Banner, who was Johnny Weaver, if you remember that name.
Yes.
Penny actually was a beautiful girl. But I mean, I'm hard pressed to think of a lot of the other girls that were really, that made themselves, that pushed themselves to be attractive. It was more about, it was like Vivian Vachon, who you wouldn't want to fight in a parking lot. Either one of us would. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I do think that, like Liz had brought a lot of glamour.
Yeah.
But I thought that Sherry Martel brought a lot to the business.
Oh my God, yeah.
And she was never considered a glamorous person, but she was a great person, a great manager, and she was what the heart and soul of the business was all about.
I agree.
That's my take on Sherry. I thought Sherry was great. Liz, wasn't really. She didn't participate in the business like Sherry did, but Liz brought a lot from her standpoint. So, it's all what someone likes, but I've seen it all, and to see where they are now, and it's funny. I just was talking about this with Stephanie the other day. What made that thing so big when they brought the girls out to start the Evolution? It happened to be in Atlanta, and I was at show, and it was a last-minute decision to have Stephanie go out and introduce the girls, as opposed to just whoever the ring announcer was at that time. Let's say it was Michael Cole, because she made a presentation and she brought out Bailey, and she brought out Sasha, and she brought out Ashley. And I think the fact that she did that, as opposed to a guy and announced this is the women's revolution, to start something, or evolution rather, or whatever word they were using back then, made a big difference. And it's like right now, her going out and announcing the first women's ever pay-per-view. I mean, it was huge. And I was at Evolution, and Long Island could be a tough crowd. They were
damn right.
They were there for every minute of it.
As a baby face, you never want to make a comeback in Long Island. You just don't.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts when you're watching your daughter out there? Because two high-profile matches. It was Ashley, your daughter, wrestling Charlotte versus Becky Lynch with a last woman standing match, and then just not too many days ago, Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey, which I loved both matches. One was more of a brawl. The other one stayed in the ring for the most part until they spilled out with the kendo sticks and stuff like that. But what are you thinking as, you're seeing your daughter out there. You're the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Maybe you watch this like anybody else would. But what goes through your mind when you watch your daughter out there doing work?
Well, it's like last night she wrestled Asuka again, which was the second time they've gotten together. I'm overwhelmed by it, Steve. Number one, I had no doubt that if given the opportunity, which, it all depends on how the ball bounces sometimes. as you know, we both know. If given the opportunity, she'd be good at it. But she is to the point now that she just, she is like she was when she was competing in high school and college. She can't stand not being the best. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Almost to the point where she questions herself. Well, you've talked with her several times. If someone says that Steve Austin or Jim Ross or, you know, there's only a couple people that bring a lot of merit to the, you know, if vehicle being podcast or some form that, you know, people seek approval from. But you obviously are one of them. Jim Ross is another one. I guess Dave Meltzer for sure is. Dave's had the longest run of all. But they all seek affirmation. I mean, and she's no different. You know, I don't know that she actually follows it that hard or people tell her. But, you know, it's the way with all the kids. It is what it is. I mean,
but you know,
started, you know, 10 years ago. I mean, I can remember the two twin kids that were good athletes. They were brothers. I cannot think of the name. Nice guys. They were renowned a couple times, but they were, after they wrestled, you know, there was a time when Vince wanted you to watch from the curtain, especially at TV. He wanted you to stay after your match. And he made a point of it when I first went back in 2001. You know, lead by example. I want you out there watching the matches, you know, with the other talent, so they don't think you just are in and out. These guys, I guess, were looking on the internet in the office, looking for what the crowd or the people critiquing them were saying on the computer, and they got fired for it or sent home for a couple of weeks.
Jesus.
So down on it, and look at it now. I mean, now that's the first thing everybody's looking at. You know what I mean? You know, and I know. If you walk through the gorilla, and he looks at you, and it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or it's a come here, or it's standing and clapping if he's really happy. And you know the chain of command.
Right.
And, you know, and me, if he was smiling, that's all I cared about. When I was younger, I didn't care about anything. But, you know, when I got there, I was trained to understand that you were there to make him happy. He screamed at me one time coming through the curtain, "Hey, heel, don't draw. Get over it." And just out of nowhere. I don't even know what I said. God, his heels don't draw.
It's hard to argue with his track record, but sometimes I do like, man, where did that come from? You know, when you look at Ashley, it's like when I look at Ashley, it's like she's always going to be your daughter, and it's like some people when they're second generation or third generation, it's like it's hard to get out of their father's shadow. I feel like, first of all, she's always going to be a Flair, but how do you feel about it? Because I think she is out of your shadow. I think her merit. I think she stands out on her own. No, but wouldn't you agree? She's not in your shadow. She's doing her own thing.
Steve, I totally agree. I think she is starting to understand. She is making her own name.
Yes.
Everything, you know, she went through so much. That's why I wish for anybody that asks me that question or what I think about your if you have recognition, your son or daughter going into this business, it's terrible for them. They made life miserable for her. And she wasn't ready for that. She was ready to be just who she is, right? But assuming special this, special that. But she has, you know, she built her own brand, Steve. And I'm not saying it because I am proud of her, but I'm saying it because, number one, she's that good. Number two, she's made herself unique. I wish I could tell you I was an athlete at any time in my life that she is. I wasn't. And very few people are. She's got a gift. And she's found her niche, and she's, you know, I think the thing that she does is she works. I mean, right now she's driving somewhere to a town, and she's thinking about her match tonight. You know, and I wish sometimes she would take it easy and relax. But, you know, when she went to Europe this time, she had some fun with the kids, you know, and because it was like almost 14 straight days. Yeah, you have to have some fun. But
yeah.
She's definitely out of my shadow and doing her own thing. And I think everybody recognizes that. I mean, to say I was a great wrestler, you know, I was a three-way gimmick. Now, could I work? Yes, but I didn't have to do it. And this goes along with Steamboat, and I'm not changing the thought, but if moonsaults had been in, Steamboat would have been doing them. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't something the guys were doing, but it's not because Ricky Steamboat couldn't do them, right? I don't know that I could do a moonsault. As a matter of fact, when my son, Reed, told me one time that Shawn Michaels was his favorite wrestler because he could do a moonsault, I thought about going over and hiring Ashley's gymnastics coach to put a harness on me and jump off the beam backwards a couple times. But, I mean, that's, you know, when Shawn first started doing that, I mean, it was the deal. But now, the thing that, you know, you'll go to a show and they'll have three people doing moonsaults in the same show. To me, it just takes away from it. But that's the business, and who am I to say anything?
Man, I just think she's kicking ass right now. Out of those two matches with her and Becky Lynch, that last woman standing match versus the match with her and Ronda, was there one that you preferred over the other? Just I love both of them. And one of the things that I like most about these, Rick, was the intensity and the physicality. And then when Ashley has that fire, when she gets that Main Street going, that's when I come alive. I love her. I don't know whether she's heel or baby. I don't care. Preferably heel, but just when she's in her elements and being who she is as a competitive athlete, money. I like that. So was there a match that you preferred out of the two, or did you just love both of them?
Oh, I loved them both for different reasons. What I really loved the one with Ronda, because from the start, and I used to say this about Roman, you know, Roman Reigns might not be able to beat Brock Lesnar, but he's not afraid of.
Right.
And I think, you know, which is important. You know, if you're going in the ring with a guy you're relatively afraid of, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Or, you know, don't trust, which wouldn't be Brock, because Brock is.
Well, he's a sweetheart when it comes down to it. He's a professional. Yeah. But could he rip your head off? Yes.
Yeah, but he's safe, too. I mean, he's like Kurt.
Absolutely.
You know, we're German. We've all taken them from people who don't want to do it. With Brock, he's laying it on flat. Kurt, same thing. But I actually think that from the start of the match, people thought, you know, they could feel like Ashley wasn't afraid of Ronda.
Awesome talking to you. I appreciate you talking to me on the podcast because, man, this is short notice.
No, anytime, man.
I know, but I wanted to check in with you anyway. And I wanted to come down to the downtown L.A. and have lunch with you, but you had to do that promotion stuff, and then I didn't feel like getting into traffic to go to the football game. But is there anything that you can tell the people as far as where they can find you on social media, or if you have any upcoming appearances?
Wendy, what's the name of your new company? WonderousWendy.com. WonderousWendy.com. Here, I'll let her plug it on your podcast with you.
Hi.
Hey, Wendy, how are you?
Hey, just fine. Yes, I've launched with the help of Rick, WonderousWendy.com, and it's all lifestyle products, so it's going to be awesome. Perfect for the holidays.
For him to spend money for his wife.
And yeah. I especially want you to be shopping on there. I want to see your name on there. No, for him too.
I will jump on there immediately, Wendy.
Oh, awesome. Hey, love you. Here's Rick.
All right, good talking to you.
Hey, Steve, thanks for everything, okay? Have a Merry Christmas.
I will, Rick. You're the luckiest guy in the world. This is your fifth time I've been married. I've one behind you. This is my fourth. I'm done. I know you are too.
Yes, hey, well, you got a beautiful, wonderful wife too. And anybody could live out in the desert in the middle of nowhere, which is still the biggest rib I've ever done in my life. Go to that place for a podcast. Anybody that can live out there and put up with your ass and drive 200 miles a day for groceries is the greatest woman alive. Good Lord.
That's the bottom line because Ric Flair said so. Oh, Jesus. What a finish. Rick, thank you very much. I love you too.
Listen, you got so damn much money. I know you're square with the IRS. When it says block caller, it's me. Not the IRS. Pick up the damn phone.
Thanks, Rick.
Love you, kid.
Love you too. Bye-bye. Hey, man, I want to give a quick shout-out to my main man, Diamond Dallas Page and DDP Yoga, and tell him thank you. Thank you, because I've been doing my regular workouts with the DDP Yoga Now app for months, and I'm feeling like a changed man, and it's for the better. I'm more limber and more loose than I've ever been before, and I feel great. And if you weren't already aware, DDP Yoga has transformed the lives of legends such as Mick Foley and Chris Jericho, who's still going strong at 47, as well as helping rehab injuries for WWE superstars like Bobby Fish, Drew McIntyre, and AJ Styles. DDP Yoga can work for all ages, all weights, all fitness levels, because it's a kick-ass cardio workout that will dramatically increase your flexibility and strengthen your core like never before, all with minimal joint impact. That's what I love about it. Just for listeners of the Steve Austin Show, and just in time for the holiday season, DDPY is offering its biggest discount ever. Oh, yeah! With 30% off DDPY workouts and the DDP Yoga Now app. This massive sale is happening now from November 19th to November 30th. And to boot, you will still get 3 months free on the app with any DVD program purchase, or 7 days free on any app subscription. This offer is only available at ddpyoga.com/Austin, so get on it and check us out. DDP's upcoming book, Positively Unstoppable, The Art of Owning It, is now available for pre-order. Filled with lessons from Page's life and share his own struggle to find his calling, overcoming one obstacle after another. Positively Unstoppable is a Bible for anyone who needs to be re-inspired to follow their dreams and take real action towards the things that matter most to them. Positively Unstoppable will be released January 15, 2019, and is available for pre-order anywhere books are sold. Get this thing. I'll guarantee it's going to be on the New York Times bestseller list on top. Number one, bottom line. Most of us are brushing our teeth wrong. You might not want to believe it, but it's true. Not for long enough, or just forgetting to change the brush on time. Well, get your act together, because QUIP is changing the game with their electric toothbrushes designed to make brushing your teeth more simple, affordable, and hell, even enjoyable. So, what makes QUIP so different? QUIP features a built-in timer to help you clean for the dentist-recommended 2 minutes with guiding pulses to remind you when to switch sides. And QUIP automatically delivers brush heads on a dentist-recommended schedule every 3 months for just $5. I've been using the QUIP toothbrush, and it's an interesting gimmick. The brush starts buzzing when you brush, and then it stops to tell you when to switch sides. You don't realize how long you should really be brushing on each side until you see this thing. Now, thanks to QUIP, I'm brushing better, and that's the bottom line, and my teeth are whiter rather than yellow. And the special adhesive holder easily sticks to my mirror. You don't even have to get it wet. QUIP starts at just $25, and for all you Steve Austin Show listeners, if you go to getquip.com/Steve Austin right now, you get your first refill pack free with a QUIP electric toothbrush. Again, that's your first refill pack free at getquip.com/Steve Austin. GETQUIP.com/Steve Austin. Do it for your damn teeth. All right, everybody, give me the go-home cue. It's time to wrap up this podcast and ride off in the sunset. But before I do that, I want to thank my guest, Nature Boy Ric Flair, for joining me today on short notice. Ric Flair is the greatest professional wrestler who ever lived, and that's the bottom line. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Wendy. She was right there. They was trying to watch some pro football. I gave the man a call. He gave me an hour of his time, and we shot the breeze about the business. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to share a conversation with Ric Flair. We've had so many private moments that we'll never share with anybody, but it's fun to be able to talk to Rick and share our conversations with the world. I have the utmost admiration and respect for Rick. I tried to model my career after him early on in my career, and I found out I could not be the next Ric Flair. I had to be Steve Austin. I turned that into Stone Cold, and it turned out to be okay. But Ric Flair was so instrumental in my early part of my career, just as far as trying to be that guy, being in those tag team matches in Anderson, South Carolina, or wherever it was, and all of a sudden you're watching the man work up close and personal, and you think you can be that guy, and all of a sudden he's doing his thing in the ring, and it's like all of a sudden it's a come to Jesus meeting. No one is Ric Flair. I'm not Ric Flair. There will never be another Ric Flair. That's how badass he was. That's how entertaining he was. That's how free he was in the ring, and just a guy that I hold in the highest regard. So thank you to a very special guest, Nature Boy Ric Flair, And thank you to Wendy, his wife. Hey, man, before I leave out of here, I want to tell you about a badass beer. It's called Broken Skull IPA. If you like IPAs, this is the best IPA in America, made by El Segundo Brewing Company. You can find it in Southern California. If you come down to Whole Foods and Total Wines down here in this area, you can check some out. If you ain't in Cali, you're probably shit out of luck. If you come into Cali, if you come into L.A. specifically for business, hang a left out of LAX. Go down to 140 Main Street in El Segundo, California, and get some fresh out of the draft. This is the best damn beer in the United States of America, and that's the bottom line. Also, if you're looking to get a badass pocket knife, which I suggest everybody should own, I can give you countless stories over and over again about why you need a pocket knife. Check out the Cold Steel Broken Skull knife or the Cold Steel Working Man knife, both at my Amazon store. Amazon got the best price on both knives. Just go to amazon.com/shop/Steve Austin or go directly to the Cold Steel Knives website and check out all their badass knives. I want to say one more thank you to all the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show. They are the ones that help me do this podcast. I can only do this podcast because of these guys twice a week for free. I want to thank betonline.ag. I want to thank ESPN. I want to thank DDP Yoga, my man Dallas Page, QUIP Toothbrushes, and Geico. Please support them because they support us. If you need more info on my sponsors, check out the show description to this episode for details. I don't talk about nothing that I don't believe in. I believe in all my sponsors. Folks, I am on social media, Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me at Steve Austin BSR. Until next time, folks, my name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
Before we ride off, a quick message from our friends at Geico. Go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes, you could be saving 15% or more on car insurance. That's right. Save hundreds of dollars on car insurance at geico.com. Extra money in your pocket? It may just be the most rewarding thing you do today.